it's weird. We got back on the highway and we started heading south. We got to the mile marker. There's no truck. There's no pickup truck alongside the road. There's nothing. There's not even skid marks on the road that were there before. This is crazy.
This is Touched by Heaven. Everyday encounters with God. Those moments when heaven and earth collide and we see God. We see his hand reaching out to us, attempting to get our attention, inviting us into a closer relationship. Here we share stories of encounter with angels, divine intervention, prophetic dreams, visions, near-death experiences, big and little God incidents. I am your host, Trapper Jack.
I remembered your name. Trapper Jack's pretty,
stupid.
It's rememberable. How about that? Not stupid. It's rememberable. I can remember that.
That's Dan. Dan's a truck driver. Been driving truck for about 20 years now. He just found the podcast a few weeks back.
I've been kind of binging it while I'm out driving. But there's times it's hard to drive a semi-truck while people are crying and it's like tears are starting to roll. It's like, no, I gotta pause it. It's like their stories touch me so much and it's so real and it's so funny because as I'm hearing the different stories, there's parts of my memory that's coming back. It's like, oh, well, this has happened in my life and that's happened in my life. And it's like, wow.
I've heard that a lot. I've heard that from people saying as the more they listen, the more they remember moments in their life as well. Yeah.
So where would you like me to start? What kind of stories is in?
Oh, well, let's just go back to, conception.
Conception. Well, I'm the second of four boys.
Never mind. We don't have to go back to that. Never mind. Just a thought.
Okay.
Just a thought.
So I guess one of the first miracles of my life is my parents have told me that my dad had a motorcycle when I was about 2 or 3 years old. Apparently, I went out to the yard to go climb on the motorcycle because I loved it so much, and my mom found me underneath of it because it fell on top of me. And the only thing that kept it from falling was those old 1970 mirrors, those little metal bracket ones.
Yeah.
Held the entire motorcycle up off of my body so she could pull me out of there.
Not your time. It wasn't your time yet, buddy.
Definitely not my time, but...
It seems to me that in this episode, we are going back to that reoccurring theme, Matthew 28:20. I am with you, comma, always. I remember back with Alice in an episode that was called The Voice on the Beach. Just a few seconds. It was just a few seconds on the beach she heard that voice. I am with you, comma, always. And it was the always that struck Alice. And in this episode, again, it's the comma, always. Do we believe that Jesus, well, right where you are now, Jesus is looking at you with love saying, I am with you always. Pauline's episode, the near-death experience, episode 112, the part 2 of it, when she's, despite the near-death experience early on, she's going through this time at age 33 of depression, and then there's Jesus in the room. Can't see him, but she hears him. Fear not. I have not forsaken you. Translation, I am with you, comma, always. Or back just back to episode 120, Margaret suffering from cancer for the second time. She's in the hospital now, and she's praying to God, what is this? Where are you? And what does she get? She gets Jesus in the flesh. She thinks a nurse has just come into a room. No, it's Jesus looking at her with that look of, I am here. I am with you, comma, always. So again here with Trucker Dan and his stories, that no matter what we're going through, good times, bad times, in the room always, in the truck always, where you are right now always, comma, always, I am with you. Here's Dan.
I could start back with a few of the angel moments in my life.
Okay.
I grew up in a Christian Reformed church. I grew up in the Calvinist style. My parents were very poor, and we pretty much did not fit in well. There's 4 boys. We were all very rowdy. A lot of the churches did not care for us. And my parents moved around a lot because my dad was trying to find the right place to land as a home. A lot of my friends were the non-Christian friends. They were the ones that accepted me for who I was. No matter what I did or what I said, there was no judgment. And I grew up learning, hey, there's no judgment. So I kind of, especially in my teenage years, I really walked away not from God, but from the church. I, I I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to my friends who care for me and care for who I am, which learning later that they were all about partying. It wasn't so much about me. It was just about the partying for the most
Yeah,
part.
it wasn't so much they were accepting you for who you were. They liked who you were. This guy can party
Yeah,
too. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
I gotcha.
Exactly. But there's still no judgment from them. I mean, they'd never judge me. And when I would tell them I was a Christian, they're like, "Oh, that's cool. That's cool for you. We're happy for you." I'm
Okay. All
like,
right.
okay. And so I walked away from the church. And in my late 20s, I had served in the Army. I got out and I came back home, met up with some of my friends. And I used to go to concerts a lot. And this first one was, it was a big concert outside of Grand Rapids. It was an outdoor arena. And it was, it was, it was Metallica and Danzig. It was a very far from Christian concert. Um,
You
and,
think?
and that, just a little bit.
Yeah.
So, um, so during that time, I smoked a little bit of pot and stuff. I was not a heavy user, but I did my fair of bad stuff. I was pretty close to being an alcoholic, and I did some drinking. But the concert got over, and we got into our car, and then we got into this long, long line of just vehicles waiting to get out. So we just got in line, and we sat there. We just sat in line. While we're sitting there, all of a sudden our back door opens. It was just me and one friend, and back door opens, and this guy jumps in the back of my car. And I'm like, excuse me, what do you need? And he looks at me and he goes, "You're taking me to Detroit." I looked at him and I laughed. I said, um, no, because I'm going to the lakeshore by Lake Michigan. I'm going the opposite way.
How far away is
And
Detroit at this point?
oh, Detroit's about a 3 hour drive
The other way.
to the east. And I lived about 40 minutes to the west of Grand Rapids.
So Detroit
I'm
didn't
like,
sound
yeah,
like a good idea.
yeah. I looked at him and I said, yeah, that's not going to happen. And he reached up and he grabbed the back of the seat and he put his head right by mine and he goes, "No, I am telling you right now, you are taking me to Detroit, and that's going to be final." And it was real creepy. I looked at him. I'm like, all of a sudden, my buddy looks over at me and he's sweating. And I'm like, oh, this is not good. And all of a sudden, my entire car completely shut down. Power, everything shut completely off. And the guy looks at me and he goes, "That's not funny. Turn on the bleeping car." And I said, "I didn't shut the car off." And he goes, "Turn it on." I'm like, "Look, I took the key out. I put it back in." I'm like, I turned it. I'm like, "Look, I have no power, nothing." And he looks at me and he goes, "Fine." And he steps out of the car and he starts walking down the line of cars and he's going from car to car, just trying to open up doors. When I finally lost sight of him because it's dark outside, the moment I lost sight of him, my car turns on and starts right up completely.
Whoa.
And
Whoa.
my buddy looks at me. He's like, "That's the creepiest thing I've ever had happen to me." I'm like, "Yeah, me too.
But the
Me
greatest
too."
protection you'd ever had, too.
Oh, that was huge protection. And I didn't think of it. I just thought at that time, it's like, that was just weird. Now it's like, I had a guardian angel sitting there going, this guy's not a good guy and he's not going to be nice to you. And
Wow.
so,
Now think about this. Think about this. You're not exactly on God's side at this point. You are your buddy, and
yeah,
yet, there's this giant protection.
yeah, yeah, it's crazy. And why God would send an angel to protect me at that time? I mean, I'm extremely grateful.
Wow, that's what a great
But
event that is. What a great
it,
event.
it was looking back, it's pretty cool. That day it was pretty scary. um, and so, and then the next event was probably, I don't know, maybe about 5 years later. Um, I during that time I started a job. I became really good friends with the guy that I was working with. Um, and I got to meet his family. We instantly hit it off. We became like brothers. almost immediately. I started bowling with him. He has a brother. He has two sisters and his parents, and they all just kind of brought me and folded me into their family. I went bowling with them all the time. I would do family events with them. Cool, cool family. In fact, 26 years later, I'm still. This weekend, I was at their house, at my buddy's house as a family reunion.
Any bowling this time around?
No, I haven't been bowling in a few years.
You know you're bonding when you bowl together. I mean, to be so intimate that you know the size of their shoe from the back of it because it's right there. 7.5.
Exactly.
Right there.
And how many pound balls they bowl with. I mean,
yes. So you're bonding.
So, and I started hunting with them, and hunting started becoming a big part of my life and with them. And their dad owned 40 acres about 35 miles from my house. So, and we all worked together too. We all worked in the same shop. The two brothers and I worked in the same shop. Well, it was a Saturday. I came into work really early because I wanted to do a morning hunt, but I had to work until like 7 o'clock. And then while I was at work, I thought I saw him come in, and I saw his jacket on his chair, and I started asking his employees, I'm like, you seen Randy? And they're like, yeah, I thought I saw him, but I don't see him right now. I haven't seen him in quite a while. I'm like, well, cool. If you see him, I was going to let him know I'm going out to Dad's house to go hunting. Just like to let people know. They're like, okay. Well, so I took off and I went out to their dad's house. Nobody was home. So I hunted way back in the back 40, and I got on my tree stand. It was bow hunting season. I was up there maybe 20 minutes, and I hear this noise, and I look, and here's this big 10-point buck walking down this runway right in front of me. I'm like, holy crap. So I grab my bow, and I get ready, and this deer stops 15 yards in front of me, right underneath my tree stand. I pull back my arrow. I'm like, I got venison today. And I shoot. And as soon as I shot, my arrow did a left-hand turn and hit directly in front of the deer, facing the same direction as the deer. And the deer's head is to my left and its tail is to my right. That arrow hits the ground in front of it, facing to the left. The deer looks at the arrow and then just takes off running. I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Did you watch your arrow just do something it doesn't do?
I did. I watched it do a turn. I'm like, and I grab my arrow, I pick it up, and I'm mad. I'm swearing mad. I drive home. I wasn't there but 10, 15 minutes at home, and the phone rings. And I pick it up, and it's my best friend, Todd. He's like, Dan, has anybody called you? I'm like, no. He's like, did you hear from Randy today? I said, no, I thought I saw him at work today. I saw his jacket on his chair, but I didn't talk to him. I wanted to let him know I was going hunting at Dad's house. And he goes, he was killed in a car accident on the way to work. And that was a brother. And I realized if I would have shot that deer, I would have been in the woods trying to take care of that deer when I got the phone call because it was on a cell phone. And I know that I would have lost something in my life, not just him, but something that I was very passionate about because I think the pain was so hard.
You just take it as you were supposed to be available for that call.
I was supposed to be available and not in the woods at that moment.
Yeah.
And not around any of the other family members.
And not celebrating your kill and not doing a lot of things. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. I was not supposed to be in those woods.
I mean, just for the arrow to do something arrows don't do, and you know what an arrow is supposed to do, and just all that stuff.
Everybody thought they saw him. Everybody thought they saw him because I went around the shop. It's a big shop, and everybody's like, "Yeah, I thought I saw Randy," and that's why when the word got out, everybody's like, "What do you mean he got killed in a car accident? He was at work."
And everybody had that same feeling.
Yeah, everybody had that same feeling. It was really crazy. And it was hard on the family. It was really hard on the family. It was hard on me. His brother stopped hunting for years, and that's been nearly 20 years now. Excuse me, I gotta wipe the tears off my eyes.
No, it's all right.
I said I wasn't gonna cry during your interview today. Um, then I had an amazing angel encounter. And I know this was an angel, and I know I talked to the guy. Um, so I did a mission trip down in Kentucky at a place called um, Christ Outreach for the Blind, and it's a camp for blind children to go out and go hunting.
And
And
as a blind guy, that sounds like great comedy. You know what I'm saying?
but here's the funny part: the guy that runs it is blind.
Darn
He got
right.
blinded in a hunting accident.
I have a buddy, Denny, lives in it's Missouri, and he's blind. He was blinded. And he lost his vision. He lost an arm and a leg in a motorcycle accident. He goes hunting every year. They line it up. He pulls the trigger. He gets deer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same idea.
Yeah,
Same idea.
It's pretty close. They do that for gun season. They do bow season. They've got these elaborate blinds set up, and they don't charge the kids a penny.
Yeah.
So it's an awesome ministry. But anyway, our church was there on a mission trip, and we were building a huge covered deck on the back of it, so that way they could have big gatherings and events out there. And the guy had a big trailer, and he's like, "Can anybody drive this trailer with my truck?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, me." He goes, "Great. We have to go to Lowell's. That's about 3 hours south of here." I'm like, "Okay, cool." So we hook up the trailer. He gets in the back seat. So we're driving south on I-75, and all of a sudden, I see this white pickup truck with the trailer alongside the road, and there's skid marks off to the side. I'm like, and there's a guy standing just looking at the tire. And I look at him. I'm like, "Hey, there's a guy that's stranded. We're out in the middle of nowhere. Do you mind if we just pick him up and just see if he needs help?" The guy's like, "Well, we're kind of busy, but we can do that." So we pull over, and it's a young kid. He's got to be in his early to mid 20s, and I don't remember his name. And I'm like, "Hey, do you need help?" He's like, "Yeah, I blew a tire on my truck. I don't even know where to get a tire over here. I'm on my way to Tennessee. My girlfriend's over there. We're moving in down there." We're like, "Well, we have to go to Lowell's. The tire place is the opposite direction. Do you want to just ride with us?" The guy's like, "Yeah, that'll be cool." He's like, "As long as I can get a tire tonight." We're like, "Okay, cool." So he gets in the back seat with the director, and the director starts talking to him and starts telling him his story, letting him know he's blind and what they're doing and how God's worked in his life. He just tells the whole story. And we get to Lowell's, and that guy helps me out loading up the trailer with all the wood. The guy's just a real decent young man. And we're like, "Okay, we're going to drop you off at the tire store." And the director looks at him and says, "When you go in there, just tell them to charge it to my account." And he gave him a special code. He's like, "This is the authorization number. Tell them that's the authorization number. They'll know it's from me." He's like, "Oh, really?" The guy's like, "Yeah." He goes, "And then they will give you a ride to your truck." He's like, "Well, thank you." And he was very appreciative. And I dropped him off, and I watched him walk up to the tire store, and we drove back to drop off all the wood. And as I'm dropping the trailer, the director comes up to me, and he's like, I'm worried about that kid. Let's go back to the tire store and get him, and let's finish off business and take care of that tire for him." I'm like, "Yeah, we can do that. I have no problem changing tires." So we drive back. The director gets out. He uses his white cane, and walks up to the front of the tire store, and he comes back to me, and he's like, "That's weird." Like, "What's that?" He goes, "The kid never went in. They never saw him." I'm like, "That's impossible. I watched him go up to the door. That's when we left." They're like, "Seriously, he never walked in. He didn't buy a tire, nothing." He's like, "Let's go back to the truck to make sure he's okay." I'm like, "Okay, I know where he broke down. I remember mile marker." So we got back on the highway, and we started heading south. We got to the mile marker. There's no truck. There's nothing. There's not even skid marks on the road that were there before. There were skid marks from where he blew the tire. They were black. I mean, I see hundreds of skid marks. When I'm on the road, and I'm just like, this is crazy. The director looks at me, and he's like, "Are you sure we're in the right spot?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is the mile marker. this is the curve in the road where I saw him because he was on a weird curve. He's like, let's drive a little bit further. Maybe you're wrong. I'm like, that's fine. So we drive down the next 3 exits, which is nearly an hour and a half of driving. There's no pickup truck alongside the road. Now, from the time we dropped him off to the time we got back and dropped off the trailer, got back to the tire store, was maybe 40 minutes. That guy was broke down. It was at least 15 miles from where that tire store was. Now, you tell me in 40, 45 minutes how a guy that did not go in the store gets to his car, changes the tire, and takes off before we could get there. I can't tell you. And the director looks at me and he goes, you know, Jesus says in the Bible, there are times we just entertain angels. I'm like, this one's got to be an angel.
Yeah, it's the book of Hebrews, actually. Sometimes we entertain angels. But why? For what reason?
I don't know.
Well, think about it. Think about this.
I have for years.
Both of you get extra blessings because of how much you did and how much you were going to help him. It's almost like, I don't know, just to kind of prove to yourself who you guys are, to let you know who you are, how God views you. I mean, I'm trying to, you try to go through the checklist,
Yeah, it's just maybe God checking. Just my thought is that God's just checking to see if we back what we say, and see if, which he already knows, by the way.
Yeah, of course he does. Of course he does. But it's almost like his way of letting us know who we are. It's like, here's who I know you to be. Now prove it that I got you right. Although he knows.
Yep.
And that's just.
It was the craziest thing. It is the actually craziest thing that I've ever dealt with. I mean, the fact that 40 minutes that car was gone, and it's impossible because nobody was around to give him a ride.
And also the fact that, and I think it's a great lesson for anybody with disabilities, as your blind friend, is that it doesn't mean you're cut off or you don't have to do what he did. You know what I mean? I don't care what state you're in, you can still do something for somebody else. And he did.
Exactly.
Even as a blind guy, he did a lot for that guy, as you did.
Yep.
But he was he was leading it though. He was like, yeah, let's go here, let's go there, let's go back and get him. He was, it just says a lot for anybody facing whatever challenges, that we can always do something no matter what our situation is. It's a lesson for me as a blind guy, just kind of like we can always be doing things for people. It doesn't matter.
Uh-huh. Exactly. And I can't say anything more than that. That's about perfect. And then my final story for Angels wise is about a month ago. I did a run down to Chicago, and I'm on the way back up to Michigan, and I'm coming through Indiana, just past Michigan City. I'm coming up to an exit ramp, and I start checking my mirrors, and so I always check my right-hand mirror because you never know if someone tries passing you on the right-hand side of an exit ramp. I check my right-hand mirror. I look in front of me, and the car that was in the far left-hand lane was in front of me broadside. Apparently, he needed that exit. And I'm running a tractor, and I'm running 2 trailers behind me, and I just slam on my brakes, and I cut it hard. I was praying to God at that moment. I'm like, please do not let that rear trailer flip, because it's a lot lighter. It takes nothing to flip those rear trailers. And as I'm turning, this guy, I'm losing sight of his car in front of me, and my whole front of my truck is jumping. And I'm like, oh, crap. I'm taking this guy out broadside. I think it's me pushing him along the side because the way my truck was jumping. I thought I was pushing him onto the entrance ramp. So I saw him the entire time. I thought I was on his car.
You thought you were pushing him for seconds? Several seconds? Several seconds.
Probably two and a half, maybe 3 the entire time. So by the time I hit my brakes, the front started jumping. About 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds.
Which is forever on a highway. It's forever.
Yeah, it's forever when you're making a sharp turn at 65 miles per hour.
Oh my God.
Everything's jumping. This guy has to be into the dirt that's right in front of us. And then all of a sudden he pulls out in front of me and he takes off down the exit ramp. So I have to get off the exit ramp, and the only place to turn around is a gas station that's about a quarter of a mile down the road. So this guy pulls in front of me, pulls into a parking spot, and then I pull off to the back of this gas station. And I'm just sitting there. I'm shaking. I'm just scared. I'm like, I had to have hit this guy. So I get out of my truck and I go to the front of my truck, and there's nothing on my truck. I didn't touch him. I didn't scrape any paint off of him. Trailer stayed upright. I wanted to go and cuss him out really bad. Just something inside of me is like, just leave him alone. Just take a breath and you leave. There's no damage on his car. There's no damage on my truck. I went back to the front of my truck. I checked it out. I'm looking for the smallest amount of purple paint on my bumper. And I can't find it. And I'm like, holy cow. God prevented me from a huge accident, because by all rights, I should have taken him out on the passenger door. And we all got out fine. Even still, I've replayed this probably 1,000 times in my head. I'm like, he should have been dead to rights.
At 65 miles, 65 miles an hour, you're T-boning the guy and nothing. And you don't even, and you didn't, and you obviously didn't touch him.
Nope, didn't touch him at all. Didn't flip my trailer. My trailer was skidding pretty good, but it followed the front trailer. To me, it was a mini miracle.
That's more than a mini. God wouldn't allow it. He just would not allow it.
Nope. And so, yeah. So that was my last angel.
That's your last angel. Afterwards, do you wish now you'd gone back up to the window just to say, "Could we talk about what just happened there?" Hey, what?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If I could see him right now, I'd like to sit and just say, "Hey, man, what the heck did you do?"
Yeah. And did you feel my truck? How did my truck not hit? Did you feel my truck? And it's like, because he's telling this story too. So, at parties, this guy's telling this story. He's told it 1,000,000 times. Only in his version, I was exiting carefully, and this crazy truck driver,
this almost T-bones me
guy
on the highway.
Oh my gosh, he was a madman out there, and all of a sudden he's chasing my car. It was the movie Duel all over again. I think we all saw that.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, call that an act of God.
That it was.
Okay. Now, why? All these stories add up to, now you sit back and you go, why? What happened in your life? When did you find God? Are you still finding him? Are you looking for him? What was transformation? Again, God looks at the DVR. There are things going on in your life. What changed?
So there's so much more from the time of the car to the mission trip. I was married. I went through some extremely bad marital problems at that time. And we saved the marriage for a period of time. And then the same problems happened again. And then our marriage ended. Since that period of time, I've been divorced. I have been remarried, but I've gone through a lot of problems with kids. I've had to do some soul searching for myself even now of what the heck, God, why is my family in turmoil? And I think it's just God still pointing to me saying, I'm here, no matter what, I'm here. You could be going through bad parts of your life, but I am here. And I think that's from the angels. That's what he's trying to tell me.
That basic theme has come up so many times on the podcast of just, end of Matthew's gospel. I am with you always.
Mm-hmm.
I am with you all. And he's not kidding. I always make the point that I don't care, in your trucks with you right now, there's Jesus looking at you. I am with you always. Yep. He's in this room now. I am with you always. Anybody listening, he's with you right now. You're not alone. Even if you think you are, he's there. Yep. I am with you always. And I think that is just a reoccurring theme. And even that little moment of understanding, whether you've had an experience like yours or not, just to understand he meant it when he said it. I am with you always. No matter what you're going through, I am with you always. You're not alone in this.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
And sometimes that's enough to wake us up to that fact. And sometimes that's enough for the light to go on and say, I need to get closer to you, Jesus. Wherever you are in this room, I need to get closer to you, because You didn't lie. You're with me always. Somehow all of this is kind of a wake-up, isn't it?
It is, and it seems like these happen when I'm in my fogs, when I'm struggling in my life. Um, so yeah, here I am. There's so many more stories though. I have so many more.
Well, we can get to them. But what's the podcast meant to you? If I can ask that, I don't know. Somehow I think that plays a role in this somewhere.
Your podcast has made me realize that I'm not crazy. So I realize that I'm not the only one. And I've struggled with going to church, and for the reason is, like you say on your podcast all the time, that miracles are still happening, but the church doesn't ever talk about it, and see that what happens in I'm just a little nobody truck driver, man. That's it. I'm nobody special. In fact, I've gone through periods of my life I could say I was probably not a really nice guy. But yet God's still there, and God shows miracles in that He shows them so many millions and millions of people. And your podcast, you're so real, and it's not even really, no offense, it's not you, Trapper. It's everybody else when they call and hear the motions. Like I said, there are times I'm almost crying down the road where I might have to pull over sometimes because it's real. It's happening. And God is trying. I think He's trying to show Himself, and I think the leaders of all the denominations, of all the churches, I think they need to start sitting down and saying, we better start relooking at God and what He does. Because I'll tell you, I don't feel comfortable sitting in a church. I hear the same sermon. If I hear another sermon about the prodigal son and walking away again, I could probably go crazy, because I've heard every aspect of that, and I understand being the prodigal son. What about the lady I just listened to? I think it was episode 104, the lady who got into the Wicca. What about her? That's a miracle story. What about a lot of these people that have called you and said, this happened in my life and God revealed Himself. God sent me an angel. I didn't even think God was real. And look at what happened. And what you're doing is you're presenting a forum to allow people to say, God's working, and here's how He's working. He's worked in my life. He's worked in their life. He's worked in their life. It's not a coincidence. It's God. And so God's just given you a great platform to give the rest of us a voice.
He has. He's given me a gift. Absolutely. He's giving me a gift to be able to share these stories, your story. Church was built on the miraculous. I still believe that when the church began and was exploding, and 3,000 baptized at one time and all these kinds of things, I think these kinds of stories were told all the time. Oh, did you hear about Bob's angel story? Oh, did you hear this one? Did you? I think it was just teeming with stories of God, of encounter, of I can't tell you how many times I've heard clergy say it's not about the personal experience. Well, guess what? Sometimes it's the personal experience that brings you in. Brought me in.
Exactly.
That's what brought me in. Now I can go into the Bible and this stuff means something. Before it was a pile of words.
There could be 100 people in the church that never told their story, but nobody knows.
I want to hear the story of a guy and his buddy who were leaving a concert, and a guy jumped in the back seat and the car died. I want that story in a church, because it's just as relevant as the angel that goes into a jail cell and lets Peter and the gang out. It's just as relevant to me. It's just as real to me that God would save you guys. I mean, he could have saved your life. I have no idea.
Exactly.
He kept you out of harm's way. That story is worth telling. And I get it that the Bible is special. It is. It's inspired words. I get it. It's not a dead book. All those things are still happening today. Angels are still being sent, and you're a perfect example. You should have creamed that guy on that highway. There's no way that guy survives.
Yeah, there's no way. There's absolutely no way he should have survived. And I've replayed that in my head 1,000 times over the past month. I've talked to my wife 100 times about it. I'm like, I don't get it.
It
She's
wasn't
sick of it
you.
now.
Again, it wasn't you. It wasn't really snappy
No.
driving on your part.
No, exactly. Because I thought I hit him. I really thought I hit him. And and to encounter somebody alongside the highway and they just disappear.
Yeah, that too. Just to show you the heart. See,
Yes.
and the beauty is he showed all of us how to be a Christian.
Yeah,
That's what he did.
exactly.
And that we all have time. Even though you didn't have time, we all have time to be better Christians. They'll know we are Christians by our love. Isn't that what that song says?
Yeah, that's exactly
Well, when
what
we
it
look
says.
like everybody else, when we look like everybody else, then something's probably wrong. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm not shining so bright right now. I'm not shining so bright. So that's what these stories do, and that's why I think they have a place. They have a place.
Also, just on a personal note too, for your listeners, I have a cousin and an old Army buddy who is fighting cancer, and they just need prayers. So if your listening family could send out prayers for
Amen.
my buddy John
You got it.
and my cousin Paula, I would so appreciate it. They both need it really bad.
We know that prayer moves the hand of God. We know that it does. You bet.
Exactly. I'm about out of my lunch hour. There's a few other stories I would love to tell you at some point.
Okay, down the road.
Part of our, yeah, down the road.
Literally.
This has been an honor, by the way. I never expected you to call me. Never.
Why?
I don't know, because I don't ever think I'm that. There's not that much special for me.
Nothing
So I
special
just-
about me either, pal. A couple of non-special people telling stories. It's great.
Yeah, one other thing, real quick, Trapper. My mom just sent me a text. Hold on. My Uncle Jerry is in the hospital with heart problems.
More prayers.
He's 70 some years old, and they told him a couple months ago that he has no more than 2 years to live. So, yeah, more prayers for
Okay.
people that are close to me. So,
Amen. Amen.
it's amazing that text came through just as we're talking.
God always has final say. God always
thank you.
has final say.
I thank you for the time, and I've got to get back on the road and get back to work.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate you spending your lunch break with us. I talk about how songs bubble up seemingly from out of nowhere, and we know where that nowhere is. The song that's been playing this week in association, I think, with this story or these stories, it's a old Elton John song called Leave On, 5-minute song, but there's one line in it that just keeps playing over and over again in my head. And it's the lyric, and the New York Times said, God is dead. And that's been playing. God is dead? Hardly. I am with you, comma, always. Wherever you are right now, right here in this room right now, I am with you, comma, always. And he is. I am always looking for great stories and counter stories. What's yours? Get a hold of me at touchedbyheaven.net. Thank you for that. Also, thank you for supporting us. If these episodes are a blessing to you, I so appreciate your support. Do we need your support? Yep, we do. And we appreciate it through Patreon. Go to patreon.com, look for Trapper Jack, or you can click through here at episode 123. My special Patreon shout out this week goes to Tricia Benedetto. Thank you so much, Tricia, for your support. Also, click on Stay Informed. We'll send out the email each week to you as well. About in this Touched by Heaven universe. We send out a weekly email, too, to kind of keep you informed and other things that are going on in this encounter world. All right. In the meantime, thank you for keeping us a 5-star podcast by your ratings and reviews. And I'll see you here again next week at Touched by Heaven. Everyday encounters with God. I'm Trapper Jack.
I remembered your name. Trapper Jack's pretty, it's pretty,
Stupid.